This is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and today I'm doing a review of The Peak Team, a solo and cooperative game of Park Ranger Conservancy. And disclaimer that I got a review copy of this one. The Peak Team is a game for 1 to 5 players, where each of you controls a park ranger, and you use cards from your hand to perform different types of movement along different types of terrain to go around the park, trying to reach randomly generated mission locations, and also trying to check in on each of the wildlife located in the park. So let's discuss 5 key things to know about the Peak Team. For my number 5 point, the least important to know, but still important or I wouldn't mention it on the list, I'm focusing on the modularity and difficulty in the game, and this is a mix for my taste. So the game takes a modular complexity approach to things. You start with level 1, where you're just moving around and doing the basic actions, but then when you get to level 2, you start having random spots in the park blocked, so your path is not as easy to navigate. But to balance that out, when you check on the animals, they give you one-time bonus actions to help you along. At level 3 and 4, you get special missions where multiple rangers have to meet at different locations at the same time, but they balance that out with varied player powers to give you cool bonuses. And at level 5, finally, they add in weather cards that'll randomly give you a negative and positive effect while the card remains in play. So it's nice to slowly introduce people to the game, to play a simpler version for kids, and kind of like something from the Oniverse games, I like that they add a negative and a positive at the same time to keep the game around the same difficulty while increasing complexity and depth. But on the negative side, there is no other way to increase or decrease difficulty, which can be problematic because when I played with my kids, even on level 1 or 2, the game can be incredibly tight and punishing. So I wish there was a way to make things easier. For my number 4 point, I'm focusing on the solo mode because for 3 to 5 players, the game is basically the same. With 2 players, you sort of have a third character you're jointly controlling, works pretty well. For solo, though, you're controlling 3 different characters and kind of moving them around in tandem. But the cool thing that works really well is that in the cooperative game, you're passing cards to the other players. I'll explain that in a bit. But in solo, instead, every round you deal out 12 cards in columns of face-up and face-down cards, and you have the freedom to use these cards on any of your 3 characters, a ton of flexibility. But before you can use a card that is further back, you have to play the card in front of it. Only then can you reveal and use the next card, although you can just throw them away as a rest action, not usually a good thing to do. So they've replaced the cooperative goodness with a more interesting tactical puzzle for the solo player to deal with. I think it's great, works really well, makes a solo play a joy as long as you don't mind a pretty heady tactical puzzle. Next, for my number 4 point, I'm looking at the missions that are a major part of your goal in the game, and this is also a mix for my taste. Each ranger starts out with 1 mission card, marking specific spots they have to end a move on to complete the mission. And these missions are really what creates the tactical puzzles in the game, trying to move to all these varied locations, and they come out in quite random order, so every game is going to present you with a new tactical challenge of how to get where you need to go. But something that's slightly annoying is how the game forces you to churn through the missions, especially in the beginning, because at level 2 and above, if you don't get enough missions for each round, and they have a whole bunch of them you have to dig through, then you automatically get those hazard tokens in your way, and too many of those, you lose the game immediately. But you can only hold 2 missions at a time, so you are constantly trying to get them as quickly as you can, but finish them so you have room for more. And the other caveat here is there is tons of swinginess in how the missions come out, because when you get new missions, you get to draw cards equal to the number of players, but you draw 1 at a time and you have to assign them to people. So, okay, green's already going to 3, 5's pretty close. Why? That's not near anybody. I guess I'll give it to blue. And then, whoops, maybe the next card is way closer to green or way closer to blue, but they can't take it. I have to give it to red. So sometimes you'll get missions that play nice with each other, and sometimes you won't, which can lead to huge swings in the game's difficulty. But I'm back to a full pro for my number 2. This is something I mentioned earlier, and that's the co-op card sharing in the game. Because how each round works is you draw 4 cards, and here you go, you got them to play with, but you don't keep them. Instead, you're going to give 2 to the player on your left and 2 to the player on your right. And you can see where they are, you can see where they're trying to go, you can see what goals you still have to achieve, so you really have to think which card is going to best serve which player. Really interesting, something I've never seen in a co-op game before. The only caveat with this one is back to that swinginess. Sometimes the cards you draw won't be what either of the player needs at all, and you just gotta give them the crap you get, because you don't have any other choice. Finally, my number 1 point about the game, the most important one to know, is the actual movement, puzzle, and tactical choices in the game. And these are really cool because on your turn, you can take some actions. You might move around the board with the movement icons on your card. You might fulfill your goals and check in with one of the animals based on the animal icon on the card. But then you can also throw away any 4 icons to get a wild, but only other players can use it, again instilling the cooperation in the game. And then if you're you're playing at the level where you have the special powers, that's adding more to do. You have the animal actions to consider once you check in on them. And if some of your cards aren't useful right now, hey, that's fine. Play the ones you want, because all the cards that are left in your hand get combined with the 4 new ones you draw each turn, and then you have to give all of them away. So you can't keep cards for yourself for the next round, which can be a little bit weird, but it again forces you to cooperate with the others and really figure out how to move around this very tight puzzle. Overall, you might want to check out Peak Team if you like cooperative games that have really interesting cooperation between the players. The passing of cards here is definitely a new mechanic. Or if you like solo games that are highly puzzly with the way they do sort of that grid of actions. But on the other hand, if you want a game that has tons of variety, I do think this one tends to get a bit samey. And there can be a decent amount of luck in the card draw that can tank your games. And if you want to see the game in action, I didn't end up doing a playthrough for this one, but our friends over at the Co-op Guild did, so I'll link that in the video description. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.